just joined. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. I'm glad to be back after a 2-week break. Hey, Paulette, how are you?
Hello. I am well, thank you.
Good. Nice to have you here with us. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Now, folks, can you do what we usually do when we have a guest barrister? Can we show her some love, give her virtual hugs? Let's welcome her. Let her feel welcome. Let her know that she's loved and that we appreciate her. So can we do that, please? Please. Yes. Thank you so much, Paulette. Yes, still the love and the hugs. That's what we do here. We love
Thank
to make
you.
our guest baristas feel loved and welcome because we know that it's definitely not easy coming up here to share your story. Even if you've shared it a few times, it is still not easy being vulnerable, being open. So yes, we do love and appreciate you, Paulette. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, folks, thank you for all the love and the hugs and the virtual hugs. And that's my virtual hug for you, Paulette. Good. Have you got your cup of tea?
I do.
Yes. Okay. Paulette did warn me. She said she's recovering from a cold. So bear with her if she has the cough or anything. It's fine. This atmosphere is always relaxed anyway. So just chill.
Right.
Thank you, Paulette. So tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, just for those who don't know about you. I'm sure you've got your followers, but just tell us a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Paulette, as Pastor Funke said. I am French, so I was born in France, but originally from Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo. I live in London. I'm a mother of two, a single mother of two. I work in school administration with a background of medical, social and medical sciences. I'm a youth leader in my local church, and I'm recently added to that an author. So I'm an author as well.
Okay. Youth leader, author. Wow, that's nice. Thank you very much. Okay, so when I had a conversation with Paulette, I actually said to her that, and I think she too said the same thing, that she has been through a lot. And a lot of things that could have broken and damaged anyone. And the other day I was also speaking to one of our guests who's coming in, I think in 2 weeks. And I said to him, the thing is, human beings, we don't understand the strength that we have. There's this quote that says something about putting a tea bag in hot water. That's where you know how strong it is. And for a lot of people, that's the truth. That's when we go through those things that we realize the strength that we have. And especially when you have God, on your side. So our guest barrister today, Paulette, is going to tell us and share her story. And it's a lot. Trigger warning has been put. I'm going to pin it up now. Because it's not, I don't think a lot of the things she's going to share will be suitable for anyone that's under 18. So if you're under 18, please, if your children are watching with you, please be aware that some of the things that she's sharing will not be suitable for anyone that's under 18. But so Paulette, share your story. Tell us your story.
So I will try to do it in kind of a follow-up, but bear with me if I have to go back in times, when I'm telling the story. So my earlier childhood memories are from when I was 5 years old. So when I was 5 years old, I just remember arriving in Congo. As I said earlier, I was born in France. And my earlier childhood memory is when I was about 5 years old and arriving in Congo. Our mom left us in Congo for some years, a couple of years. And for me, obviously arriving in a different country, was kind of exciting. I don't remember the excitement, but I can imagine how exciting it must have been. And just being left there without our mom. So she left us with our grandma. So I was raised for about 3 years by, me and my big sister were raised by our grandma.
Okay.
My mom, used to come and go, but then, the care was in the hands of my grandma. And then one day she came back and then she took us back to France. All I remember from my childhood, without obviously giving you every year as they go, is being, in children foster home or in a foster family. So that's how I spent most of my childhood.
Okay, can I interrupt you? What happened?
Sure.
Because your mom brought you back from Congo. So how did you get to be put in foster homes?
So I don't remember. Obviously, I was quite young, but from what I recall, she used to live in kind of a small place that would not be suitable because at that time when we arrived in France, a year later, she then had my sister. So there was my big sister, myself, and the baby, and the place we were living in was quite small to be living with 3 children. But bear in mind, so something that I got to learn recently from my dad is that when I was younger, at the age of 3, I was actually, me and my big sister, were actually placed in children's foster home because our mom just up and left. She left us with with my dad. From what I gather, there was no explanation given. She just left. And because our dad couldn't cope with 2 young children, because obviously we were quite young,
Okay.
he then put us in a children's foster home, but he used to visit all the time. I don't recall that part of my life.
Yeah.
Reason being, I've come to understand that certain trauma we forget about, and this must have been quite traumatic for me.
Yeah.
I did get in touch with someone from the foster home I was in, and it was just their recollection of me arriving there. They said, you were crying all the time. The lady told me you were crying all the time, and our heart were breaking because you were so young and you were crying. She said you were crying all the time, and I said, "Wow, okay." So that's basically. So there was a trail of us being in foster care, and I guess my mom being, not in a suitable accommodation made it in a way that we had to just go back into the foster care system. Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. So sorry. Continue.
No, that's fine. So that's how we spend most of our childhood. I can't say I can't say honestly that it was a bad childhood. As a child, obviously, as long as you get what you are wanting, and the foster caring system in France is really good with that. As in we were going on holidays, we were going on trips that I know myself. Maybe I would say living in an African home, I probably wouldn't have gained that experience.
Okay.
Just as my activity as we had on a Wednesday afternoon, I was doing horse riding. Every Wednesday I was doing horse riding. In the winter, we knew that, in the winter we will go skiing. In the summer, we'll go to the seaside. So we had that kind of pattern that for me as a child, helped me, I would say, forget that I wasn't, living, in a kind of a, family home.
Yeah.
But there was still something missing. I wouldn't say that, I was happy 24/7. There was still something missing.
Yeah.
We used to see our mom every other weekend. But then it was just obviously from Friday to Sunday, and then on the Sunday she would need to take us back to the children's home.
Right.
So until the age of 13, I grew up in basically in the foster caring system. In one of the foster care home, I was about 10 years old, around that age. I was sexually abused by one of the older girls. So it was traumatic. It was a traumatic experience for me, and in the way it happened, it was quite traumatic, and I was very, very frightened. It happened a couple of times until, I guess on her own accord, she decided that, she would stop. I didn't speak about that to anyone. I just brushed it off in the back of my mind. I just decided, I convinced myself that it didn't happen.
Okay.
And though I would have, at some point, I would start to have flashbacks, I would still push it to the back of my mind as if, no, it didn't happen, it didn't happen, it didn't happen. So that's what I kept telling myself. And it did affect the way I viewed myself. It did affect the way I viewed sexuality as well.
Right.
I was very confused. I was thinking, okay, if that happened, and obviously for me, I understood that love is between a man and a woman, but now
Yeah.
this had happened with a woman.
Yeah.
So I was quite confused. Does that make me, does that make me a lesbian?
Yeah.
Am I going to turn into a lesbian? So at that young age, I was very, very confused. So in a way, for me to cope with that, I became quite flirtatious
Okay.
with boys. So, I had male friends before that. Um, and I grew up kind of a tomboyish way. But after this event happened, I became very flirtatious with guys,
Yeah.
in proving a point that I like boys,
Yeah.
and boys are attracted to me. So that was the aim of me flirting, is that, oh, I can actually attract guys, which got me in a lot of, in a few situations that were quite dangerous, and understood that obviously flirting is not the way to prove your sexuality to anyone, really.
Mhm.
Um, so going back at the age of 13, our mom managed to get us out of the foster caring system. And sadly, months after, maybe 6, 7 months after she passed away.
Oh,
So I was 13. I was 13 years old, and I can recall that day as if it was yesterday. The way I got called out of class, the way I ran to our home, finding no one at home and having to call my uncle to tell me that I have to go to their house, and being told.
was she ill?
So she wasn't. She was ill
Okay.
for some time. I didn't know what she was suffering from. We just knew that she will go to hospital, come back. Sometimes she'll have a bottle of oxygen, which we used to walk with. When we visit, when she would take us out, we used to walk around with that oxygen bottle in a backpack. I remember she would have it in a backpack. We didn't. I mean, myself, because I don't know about my big sister, I didn't stop to question.
Okay.
I didn't stop to question. That's just, yeah, that was just me. I don't, and that's something that I do. I don't ask many questions, and I didn't question my mom as to why she had that. I just knew she wasn't well. But every time she would go to hospital, she would always come back. So for me, it was just that, oh, this is life. So that day when she went to hospital, I didn't think much of it. I remember coming back from school. My sister was on the phone to the ambulance service and calling them to obviously come to the house. I went quickly to see our mom, and I just remember entering her bedroom. I remember exactly how the layout of the house was. Entering the bedroom, and she looked out of it. She could barely speak. And I just went, and I just looked at her, and I can't remember if she said anything to me. And I said, and I thought to myself, let me just go to the living room and wait. So that's just how it happened. So the ambulance service came, took her, and in my mind, I was just thought, you know what, she'll come back. A week later, that's when the incident, obviously, they went to take me from school. I remember going to my biology class. So I was in biology class, and one of the teachers came and said, oh, you need to go home. And I froze. So I froze, and at the back of my mind, I said, something happened with mom. And again, I said, no, 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 it must not be it. I said, oh, back in the days we used to write, secret diaries and all that.
Yeah.
So I said, oh, maybe they found my secret diaries. And I said, oh my goodness, they're going to kill me because what's written in there, it's really bad. And I know it's a bit silly, but I focused on that. I really focused on that. So all the way home, I was finding excuses. Oh, if they read that page where I said this boy is cute, how am I going to move it in a way that they're not going to beat me? So it was very funny. So all the way home, it was secret diary. And then even though the thought of my mom passing kept coming, I was like, no, it's my secret diary. So I went home. There was no one. Called my uncle. He said, come to their house. I went to their house, and as I approached their building, because they have like a balcony, I could see people there. People I recognized and people I didn't recognize. And I said, oh, that's weird. But then I didn't want to think that my mom passed away. I said, oh, maybe it's a group beating that I'm going to receive here. But, so I went to the lift. Then I entered the house. I remember I entered the house on the left. My sister was curled up. My big sister was curled up. A bit next to her was my older cousin as well. My little sister was there, and she was running around, happily running around. So I thought, okay, so maybe this, it's something to do with, maybe they caught us into something that I'm not aware of. So yes, and then one of my uncle, so I greeted everyone as you would do in an African home. You go around and you greet everyone. There was uncles, aunties in rooms crying, and still I didn't want to believe that anything had happened to my mom. So I just went around, hello, 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 and then got sat down, and then I was told, very quite in a cold way, but I think it's very difficult to tell a child, it's very difficult. So quite in a cold way that your mom had died. And when I was told that, I just heard my big sister cry, but a cry that haunted me for months. Her cry and the scream that she let out haunted me for months. I came out of the house, and all I wanted to do was throw myself out of the balcony. So I was staring down and wanting to just jump. I said, okay, I was daring myself, jump, 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 and I didn't. I started running, so I just ran and ran and ran aimlessly. I didn't have an particular aim, and I ended up at my best friend's house and stayed there for some time, just crying, crying, crying. From there, I just kind of went into a dark hole where I would hear voices. I would say I was borderline schizophrenic. Voices that would dare me to end my life, voices that would dare me to just do things that would obviously destroy me in a way that obviously.
So after your mom died, where did you guys live? Were you put him back in?
So no, so after our mom passed away, we were separated into. So at that point there was 4 of us. My mom had another child as well. So we were separated in 2. So me and the last born, we went to live with my aunt, my mom's sister, and my big sister, and the one just after me went to live with my mom's uncle. Okay. So that as well in itself was quite traumatic because I've always been with my big sister. That's the way we lived. My big sister and myself were in foster home together, and the younger 2 also had their paths in the foster caring system together. Yeah. So it was quite traumatic that I wasn't with my big sister, though I loved my big sister, my younger sisters as well. But it wasn't the same bond that we had at the time. Yeah. So the family just decided to split us up, which is not something we've come to understand that wasn't our mom's wish. She had some sort of testament or something, some sort of will that she had discussed with the family, the older, the eldest of the family, and they didn't actually went by what she wanted. Okay. Understandably, no one can take on 4 children because most of our families had children of their own. Yeah. So it would have been very difficult for someone to just take on all of a sudden 4 children. So that's. But
what about your dad? Where was your dad?
So my dad. Sorry. So that's going back. So when our mom took us to Congo, they were never married. They were never married. So their relationship at the point where she obviously up and left when we were 3 years old, that was the end. My understanding, that was the end of their relationship. Okay. So I have no recollection of my dad. Like I said, my memory starts when I was 5 years old. Yeah. I met my dad when my mom passed away, so he came after the funeral. He wanted to take me, but the family was against because obviously that would have meant I'm my mom and dad only child, if I can say that. So my big sister had her own dad, and my mom and dad had me. So that would have meant him taking me away from the family that I kind of knew, and my sisters. So they were against it, and I was, if they had asked me at that point, I would have been against it anyway. So I went down a spiral of really, really dark thoughts. Hearing voices, seeing shadows. I tried to, I attempted suicide a couple of times as well. And God's grace, I'm obviously I'm still standing here, but I attempted suicide quite, intentionally wanting to end my life. Okay. I was anorexic as well, which was one way I thought I could die by not eating. So I said, okay, the suicide attempts didn't work. Right. So maybe if I, maybe if I stop eating, that would probably kill me eventually. So that was my fault. That was along the line of just, hurting myself. Right. It was really bad. It was really bad to the point where the school had to get involved in in making sure that I'm eating. I was seeing the GP once a week to weigh myself, to obviously get some sort of advice. He did advise my aunt to get me through, to see a psychologist, and she was against it. She was against it. She thought she will deal with it and I will get better.
Mm.
I would just cry. I would just cry. I just remember standing, sitting at the table and just crying because I'm being told to eat, and I just didn't want to. In school, my friends were assigned to me at lunchtime to sit there and make sure I eat, and I wasn't allowed back in my afternoon lessons until I had eaten something. And I would beg my friends to just, oh no, just tell the teacher I ate, it's okay, just tell them, and we agree. And my friends, bless them, they would say no, we're not moving. Eat that piece of bread, eat that piece. But they will, as you will separate, you have your plate, and the way you would do with a child, oh, okay, eat this little bit, leave this bit, it's okay, just eat that bit. And I would just look at my plate and cry, and my friends will cry with me, and they will ask me, but why are you being like this? Why are you being like this? And I didn't want to share the depth of the hurt that I was feeling. And what made it even worse.
About 13, 14 now? How old were you?
When I was anorexic, I was about 15, 16.
Okay. And when you started to commit suicide, was it the same age?
Yes, just a bit before that, yes. Okay. Yeah. So, it was quite traumatic as well when I think about it, and the way my friends were very committed to seeing me through it. I just thank God for such friendships, because we were quite young, so they didn't really have to do it, and because I wasn't giving much as to what's happening to me, they could have easily said, you know what, we're not here for this. They
could have given up on you.
Exactly. And then I just remember my aunt not allowing me to mourn as well. So when I would cry because I'm mourning my mother, she would just tell me, oh, stop crying. You're upsetting your little sister. Your mom is gone. She's gone. You need to stop crying. You need to move on. And this was obviously a couple of years after my mom's passing. Because I just remember when she passed, I was so caught up in the thoughts that I had. I didn't really mourn. And when it came the time to mourn, I just found myself just crying all the time. I mean, someone would tell me my cat died. I would cry as if it was my cat and as if it was a person that I actually knew. I went to my friend's dad's funeral, shortly after my mom passed. And I think I cried even more than that. Their family, they didn't understand. They were looking at me as in, okay, it's okay. You did, and I didn't know the dad. I only knew my friend. I didn't know her family, and I cried. I remember just crying. They had to get me out of the place because it was just too much. But obviously
because
for them,
you get something from, because that reminded you of your mom passing on.
Yes. So it just reminded me. So, from being anorexic, I think one day, I don't know how, I just snapped out of it, and I decided to start eating. But when eating after such a long time of not eating, so I will obviously in that anorexia, I think I was still kind of, having drinks and all that to keep me kind of going. Okay. But my stomach had actually shrunk. So when I started eating, I really had to eat small portions. I couldn't eat too much, like, let's say bread, because bread is too heavy on the stomach, but it would be very painful. So every spoon I would take, I would be, holding my stomach because it would be so painful. I had to take some medicines to line up the stomachs to make sure that I'm able to keep things down.
Right.
Then I went on about my life, trying to block out the voices I would hear, trying my best to be happy, but I wasn't happy on the inside. I definitely can say that I wasn't happy with my life. But I went on. I continued. Living, I guess. No one knew about the suicide attempts except my aunt, because she had caught me on one of them and told me at that time that if I wanted to die, I shouldn't do it in our house. That's exactly what she said. If you want to die, not in my house, do it elsewhere. That's what she said. So she never actually took me to the doctor, even to say, okay, this is what she's done. Can she has a checkup? I didn't have a checkup for that. That specific suicide attempt, I had drunk perfume and
perfume.
Yes, I drank perfume and paracetamol. I drank perfume and pain medicine. All I remember from that episode is that she walked in because my cousin had called me. She walked in and the words she said were those words. And then I felt lightheaded. And for the whole evening, I was on my bed. And I said, okay, if this is the time for me to go, good. Like it's good because I felt really lightheaded. I don't know. I felt very, 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 very weird. So I just had to lie down and I said, okay, maybe I won't wake up tomorrow morning, which is great. And I just remember the next day waking up and I was very, very disappointed. I was very, very disappointed.
But
the plan.
Didn't your aunt give you anything to check on anything?
Nothing. She just said, don't do it in my house if you're not, if you're going to do it, just don't do it in my house.
Wow.
And she walked out the room because I was in my room. She walked out the room and she closed the door. And that's basically how it went. Yeah. So I'm just gonna fast forward a bit. Yeah. So at the age of 17, then my aunt, so the same aunt I was living with, kicked me out of the house. The reason being, I went on a trip and she had asked me to come back. I'm just gonna give fictional dates because I can't remember the dates, but she had told me to come back on the 15th, and I decided to come back on the 18th. Because there was a concert. We were in Paris, there was a concert, and I was with my big sister, with my cousin, and we just wanted to attend the concert. So I had my uncle call her, asking her, telling her that he's changing my train ticket and I will be back on the 18th. So I thought nothing of it. When my uncle passed the phone to me, my auntie said, don't come home. Since you decided to stay there, don't come back. I took it as a joke and I said it to my uncle. She said to not come back. And my uncle said, nah, she's just angry. Don't worry. Just go and she'll be fine. So when I traveled back, because I'm from the south of France, when I traveled back, the news had spread that I shouldn't go home. I ended up living with my great uncle where my sisters were. And so I moved from one house to the other until my uncle, my mom's brother, decided to take me back to her. And I said, don't take me back. She doesn't want me there. Don't take me back. And he said, no, you have to go there. You have to live there because you can't live here. There's too many children. You can't live there. He had many excuses. So he drove me there. The months that I stayed there were awful. Obviously, my aunt would not talk to me. My uncle wasn't talking to me either. Not that we had a great conversation with her husband, but he would still feel very cold. So I decided to go before judge and ask the judge to place me back into the foster caring system. So that was on my own accord and before the judge. So I went back into the foster caring system at the age of 17. Okay. I was given a flat at that time because there was no foster care homes with a place for someone who will be 18 soon. I know the foster care system has very different age group, different places you can be. So there was none for my age group. Okay. So I ended up living in a flat. So I was quite independent from the age of 17. In my flat, buying my food, going to school. And my friends were like, "Oh wow, you got a flat," and that. So it was quite, it was quite cool, I would say. But the depth of what I was feeling on the inside was not cool at all. So I was putting up a front again, making people think that my life is so good. It doesn't matter that I've been kicked out. This is what I'm getting out of this. But I was really broken, really on the inside. Then they found a place for me in a foster care home. So I went back into living with other children, sharing a room, just being part of that community, which was good. I made good friends. And by the time I was 18, then moved into my own flat because that's how their system worked. Is that when you're 18, then they find a flat for you. Though you are still part of their community, you are in your own place. So that's how it was. 19 now. If I fast forward a bit because the story is quite long. I came to now live in London to be with my dad because when he came. When my mom passed away, he came, he told me where he lived, and we kept in touch. but I didn't tell him the extent of the things that I was going through in my day-to-day life. I didn't think that this was something that he would want to know. And so we kept our relationship very much like, oh, hi, how are you? I'm good. You're good. Okay, fine. So I called him and I said, okay, I want to now come and live in London. And he said, yes, of course, we'd be happy for you to come. So I came to London. This is how I ended up in London. What started as something I was really excited about became something that I regretted, because I've actually never really lived with in a family unit. I don't know how to explain that, because though I lived with my aunt, there wasn't much involvement, if I can say, with my upbringing. It's a bit weird, the way I'm seeing it. But with my dad, because obviously he had left me I had left him, I would say, at such a young age. So the way he saw me, I was 19, but he saw me as the little girl that that he left. So there was a lot of wanting to hug, wanting to all this or that, and I wasn't used to this. I wasn't used to the hugs. I wasn't used to someone checking up on me. I wasn't used to someone asking me where you going, what time you coming back, or come sit with me, let's talk. I wasn't used to that. So for me, it was too much. It was overwhelming, and I didn't like it.
But he was married now, wasn't he?
Yes, married and children. Yes, so he's married and has children. So for me, it was just too much. I couldn't relate to him. I couldn't relate to their family, the way they were functioning. And for me, it was a bit like, why are you guys so into each other's business? Like, why are you guys so, oh, let's do this as a family. So for me, it was a bit too much, though it's something obviously that's normal.
Yeah.
But I didn't grow up like this. So for me, it wasn't normal. My brothers, sisters, obviously now they gained an older sister that they've never actually met. So for them, I was pretty much a stranger coming into their house, and they made sure I knew that I wasn't part of that family. They made sure that I knew that I was a stranger in their home. So a lot of things was, this is mine, this is not yours, don't touch this, this is not your house. And though they're much younger than me, I would cry when they would say this. I would go to the bedroom and I would just cry, because I thought I could integrate this family, but clearly I can't. And it was just too much for me. It was too much, and I had to say to my dad one time that I don't feel like you're my dad. I feel like you're some uncle. I just came to live with some uncle, and I know I hurt him by saying that, but that's exactly how I felt, because I felt like he was a stranger trying to be a dad to me, and I didn't like it. I said, you need to back off. You're kind of a stranger, an uncle that's trying now to be, a dad. And our relationship
was probably trying to make up for all the lost time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I've come to understand that. So obviously, bear in mind, nowadays, our relationship is great. It's great. So that was then. And I ended up going back to live in a hostel, because everything just became too much. So I went to live in a hostel, went to, started working, and in that workplace, I made a friend. So I made this guy friend. For me, like I said, I grew up a bit as a tomboy. So I grew up around boys, and I thought that I always got on better with boys than with girls. When I was younger, I had a sharp mouth. I was very sarcastic. And I thought to myself, only boys can take this. And I would never fall out with the boys when I'd be sarcastic and banters. But with the girls, it was always like, oh, why are you saying this? But with the boys, it was banter for banter, sarcasm for sarcasm. So that's why I liked being with boys. So when I made this friend at work now, I was like, oh, that's great. My first kind of proper friend in London. So we used to work together. I would see nothing more than this. But one time we went out for work social. I had to drink, but I don't recall drinking that much. But then he said, oh, let's, come and sleep at my house, because we were near his area. And I said, okay, yeah, because obviously I don't want to travel all the way to where I live. I said, okay, no problem. So I went to sleep. I went to sleep in his house, just to kind of cut the story short. This guy who I trusted ended up sexually abusing me, and I was a virgin at the time. So for me, that was my first experience with a man. Quite traumatic. I cried.
Did you tell anyone?
No, I didn't.
Wow.
I didn't. Again, the way for me to cope with that is, so I ran out of his house crying in tears. Didn't go to work for about a week. And as I didn't go to work, I was thinking, you know what? I kept myself for so long. Let me go back to this guy and tell him that we have to be in a relationship now, because I don't want anybody else to see my body. So now you've done this, the consequences are you're going to be with me and you're going to marry me. So that's how I put it to him. And I guess he had feelings for me, which I didn't know about. So it was like, yeah, that's fine. Of course, yes. So, yeah. So we ended up being in a relationship for 6-7 months. At that time, for me, it wasn't a relationship of love. I have to admit, I didn't love him. I liked him as a friend, but with what happened,
Yeah.
I don't know if I really liked him. Sex had become a chore. I didn't like, my views of sex was very much, it had to be done, let it be done. So I didn't value it at all. And that's how I went on to my other relationships after that, is that I didn't view sex as any big deal. Okay, oh yes, we want it, let's do it. There was no feelings of it at all. And I ended up getting pregnant by obviously someone else then. When I announced to my partner then that I was pregnant, he told me that, at first he told me that it wasn't his. So that means he was calling me something that I wasn't. So I took it really, it really knocked me down. Then from the pregnancy not being his, he told me to have an abortion and then we can try again later. And I was thinking to myself, first, it's not yours. So if you decide that it's not yours, why are you then asking me to have an abortion? And not only that, you're asking me to have an abortion and for us to try again later. So that doesn't make sense, really, what you're telling me. And then my dad then found out I was pregnant. All heaven broke loose. That was a major thing. Because he knew the guy, he then called him to come to the house and kind of explain himself. I don't know what kind of explanation he would have given. But when this guy came to my parents' house, he then again talked about abortion. So, I mean, as African, I don't know how someone can sit in front of a parent and tell them your daughter should have an abortion because I don't want this child. But he had the courage to say that. Not only that, he then came and said, I'm married.
Oh, wow.
And I was thinking, I've lived with this guy for I had my own place, but I used to stay with him for weeks, days, weeks. And I was thinking, you're married. Then he went on and explained, okay, his wife is in another country. I knew he had a child, but obviously his child was with the mother and in another country. I didn't know that it was a thing of, I'm married and this is why, I can't, blah, blah. So I said, okay, I'm not going to beg anyone to be with me, but obviously this is your child and you need to, care for the child. He explained to my parents, blah, blah, and then he went. The relationship broke down with my dad. Even, at that point we kind of had a good relationship, but it completely broke down. At that point I was 23. I was now pregnant. I was alone. And I decided to go back to this guy. So I went back to this guy, even with everything he had exposed. I went back to him, and I said, you know what? I had convinced myself that okay, the other woman is in another country is another country. I can be here, and then we can make things work. Delusion, complete delusion. Yeah. So I stayed with him for a bit, and then one day I remember I was very sick, and he picked me up from work. I was still pregnant. I was very sick. He picked me up from work, and the next day, he picked me up from work, took me to his house, and then the next day, he woke me up, even though I knew I was sick. He woke me up and he said, "Oh, go make me breakfast." And I said, "But I'm sick. Like, I've had very high temperature." And he said, "No." He said, "Go make me breakfast." And I said to him, "Is it how you're going to be when this child is born?" And he said, well, you chose to keep it.
Wow.
And then when he said that, he got up and went to the shower. And then I just remember putting my clothes on. And I don't remember exactly how I went home because I was walking like a zombie. But I made it to my house. And from there, I never contacted him and he never contacted me. And that's how we obviously parted, went our separate ways. I obviously then ended up giving birth. I was on my own again through my
So
pregnancy.
you didn't see him when after you had his child?
So he came back when she was about, I think, 1.5. Came to see her, made some promises, and up and left again, disappeared.
Okay.
The promises were not made to me. That's not what I wanted, but they were made to, for him to take care of her. And then he went up and left, and it was a case of, oh, I need a DNA test. I said, okay, do the DNA test. There's no problem because I know myself.
Mm.
And then every time I would say, do the DNA test, he becomes a ghost.
Okay.
And that's it. So I went through quite a traumatic pregnancy, traumatic birth as well. I nearly lost my life on that, giving birth. Quite traumatic, but I thank God that he gave me a daughter that was very calm, very quiet,
Okay.
very content. This baby never cried until she was 6 months old. Not that she never cried, but she fussed, but she never really cried in a way that I would be panicked.
Yeah.
So I thank God for that. But I was very much alone. In church, once they had learned I was pregnant, I was serving in church. Once they learned that I was pregnant, I was demoted. I was told to not serve anymore. And then that's how I ended up leaving the church I was in, because I thought the God we serve surely is not like that. But if they are like this, that means God is also displeased with me, and I just can't present myself to God, looking all, damaged, as one would say. So I left the church. So I was pretty much alone during my pregnancy. And this is my first pregnancy, so I didn't know most of the things I had to learn for myself. Yeah. So,
sorry, let's just go back.
Sure.
The church that I know you said something about the church, but did anyone in the church know about your past and everything, all that you'd been through?
No. I wasn't open. I wasn't open like that. Even I think even my close friends at the time, I don't think they knew a bit of my story, but maybe not all of my story as I'm sharing it right now.
Okay. So after that, you felt your relationship with God was just non-existent.
Yeah, non-existent at all. Non-existent. I was ashamed. I was, I felt a lot of guilt. For me, I was thinking, I know better.
Sorry,
And to have.
Sorry to interrupt. It just occurred to me. I didn't even ask. When did you actually become a Christian? In terms of, I know most times we've all, growing up, you all go to church. But when did you give your life?
Okay. So I think we discussed that. My great uncle is a pastor, so I kind of grew up on and off, because when we would be with our mom, we would be going to church, but when we'd be at the foster care home, we would not. So I grew up in the church, I would say, somehow, part time. But I didn't have a relationship with God as I was growing up. I was just going to church for the sake of going to church, and kind of in a religious way to know that Sunday is church. That's it. When I came to London, I said to myself, I'm not going to be forced to go to church. My dad doesn't know me. He can't, and I'm 19. He's not going to force me now. I'm 19 to go to church with him. But the first person I met when I went to college invited me to church. The first person I met, which obviously God's plan. So I ended up going to church with her, and I would say that's when I gave my life to Christ. But I would say I gave my life to Christ a couple of times. For that. But really, really started following Christ, I would say, a couple of years ago, with intentionally following and giving myself wholeheartedly to Christ a couple of years ago.
Okay. All right. Okay, so yeah, so you had your baby, you on your own. Yep.
Yes. Then I met my son's dad.
Okay.
So I met my son's dad. Everything at the beginning was great. Uh, he didn't tick all the boxes, but he kind of, I would say, ticked some of the boxes that my exes didn't tick.
Okay.
So I said I will give it a try. Although he lied about his age, I said, you know what, it's okay because he's doing all these things for me. He seems to love me. I didn't understand at that time that that's what we call love bombing. But really much into me, very much, it's you, it's you, it's you, very much on the phone for hours on end. And I thought, this is great. Wow, this is fantastic. Then slowly, and I don't know how exactly it happened, he ended up moving with us. Though I wasn't too keen on it, I just thought, well, it's happening, it's happening. Let's just go with the flow. But not knowing obviously what was hidden behind all the kindness and all the love I thought I was receiving. This relationship ended up being a domestic violence relationship. We were together for nearly 6 years. I would say it was it was toxic, not quite toxic. It was toxic. So very toxic. So verbally abusive, physically abusive, financially abusive, emotionally abusive, mentally abusive. I was a shell of myself in that relationship, always walking on eggshell. Of course, like I said, it didn't start as abuse. Everything was good. So we got together in September 2010, and the first abuse started in April 2011.
11.
April
Did you
2011.
guys ever get married?
No, we didn't get married. I would say I thank God, but yes. So it started. Little things will trigger him. And a lot of it, I will spend. A lot of time I was thinking to myself, oh, maybe it's me. Maybe I should have done this. Maybe I should have not done that. Maybe I should. So I questioned myself quite a lot. And obviously, I didn't have much self-esteem or valued myself enough to walk out at the first sign of abuse.
Yeah.
I stayed there and I said to myself, you know what, it looks like he loves me, so maybe I can help him to overcome whatever is going on in his life that is making him lash out on me so much.
Yeah.
Maybe all the love that I have, I can give it to him so that I can fix him, if I can say that, not knowing that obviously no one, we can't fix anyone.
Can't fix everything.
So obviously a lot of you know abuse happened before the children. When I was pregnant with his son, he kneed me in my stomach as well, which caused my son to not move for 24 hours. Though he was fine because I had to be checked out. But I was told then, by a psychologist that all this would have impacted my son's mental health before he even reached the world.
Okay.
And I've seen I can see that from when he was born.
Really?
Yes,
Wow.
from when he was born, there was this I don't know, this attachment, not from me, but from the baby. And I know it's a bit weird to say that, but he's always been very protective of me.
Okay.
Without, even as a young boy, he's always been very protective of me.
Right.
And obviously seeing more abuse as he was now into the world hasn't helped the way he was feeling.
Okay.
One time when I think he was about a couple of weeks old,
Yeah.
and his dad was holding him and headbutted me whilst holding him. And then I just remember the baby screaming. And again, that's the scream that haunted me for months, because the way he screamed, and anything could have happened. He could have dropped the baby as he headbutted me.
Yeah.
But this obviously was, again, for him, it was my fault. I shouldn't have done this. I shouldn't have done that. So just to give you that situation of the headbutting, he was playing football in the living room. And I just asked him to stop playing football in the living room, because what kind of adult will play football holding a baby and playing football with my daughter was, at the time, she was 5. So you're playing football holding a newborn baby in a living room with TV, all kind of things that you have in the living room with a young child. So you're teaching the child that, first of all, you can do anything in your house. Then I'm there asking you nicely to stop playing football. And then you're not doing it. So you're basically, there was also the thing where you're teaching the young child to not obey me. But I didn't put it to him like this. I said, oh, can you please stop doing this? Because obviously there's a lot of things that can break. Then you stop. And then the ball came my way and I caught the ball and he asked me to give the ball back. And I said, no. And then he headbutted me. That was actually the first time I was headbutted in my life. Very painful. Obviously, as one can imagine, very, very painful. The relationship was, like I said, very toxic on and off. I ended up finding out that I was pregnant at the same time as someone else. So he had someone else pregnant at the same time. And we gave birth 2 weeks apart.
Wow.
Yes, we gave birth 2 weeks apart. He had at one time went to live in the city where this girl lives, pretending that he's going there for work. I didn't know. I thought he was going there for work, not knowing that he had actually gone to live with her. And then he would come the weekend. And then I would be like, oh, yeah, that's good. Weekends, you're going to work, you're coming home weekends. And then when I found out, again, it was my fault. It was my fault for him doing that, for him, a lot of things went on. I think I could just write a book just on that relationship, which I didn't. But I could write a whole book on that relationship. But
all this time you were not, you didn't tell anyone, you were just bearing up.
No, I'm quite, I would say reserved, but reserved in that case is not really reserved, it's secretive.
Okay.
Keeping that a secret for me was a way of, I thought, protecting him, but also for people to not see my weakness. And I didn't want, on the outside, this guy, obviously, when he's out there, is the most lovable guy, the most funny guy, the guy that you would want to hang out with.
Right.
So when I'm outside with him, people would just see, oh, you guys make such a good couple. You guys are so great. So I didn't know how to start telling someone that this is what this guy is doing to me behind closed doors, because they won't believe me. That's how I thought. I thought they would not believe me because they see him out there. They see how lovely he is. They see how good and well presented it is. So I didn't want to be called a liar. I didn't want to be, I didn't want to be kind of, I know, and there's an element of shame as well. There's an element of shame.
Shame, and then trying to put up a front and cover up for.
Yes, a lot of covering up. Yes, I just remember a lot of time where something had happened and someone will see it from my face, because my face is quite expressive, and I'll be like, no, I'm good. Nice, it's nothing. I'm just tired, But I had just been beaten up. I went to my job interview where I'm working now, just like maybe half an hour before going to my interview. He just beat me.
Wow.
And I just collected myself, went to my job interview. I was quite early, so I sat in the car, cried, got myself back together again, and then went to my interview. And then I got the job. I've been working there for so long now. But this is the kind of life I lived. As soon as I step out of my house, I have to collect myself. I have to put myself together to make sure that the world is not seeing what's going on. But obviously, the children were seeing, and in the end, I just decided that I had to save myself, but not just save myself, save my children.
So when did you get to that point? Because you see, I hear the stories a lot, especially people who've been through domestic violence, and sometimes it's not physical, sometimes it's verbal, sometimes it's financial, like you said. But where did you get to that point where you thought enough is enough? I'm getting out of this.
So in December 2015, I just remember thinking, surely there's more to life than what I'm actually living. I had got back to church at that point. This is just a side note. I had got back to church at that point, and I just thought, you know what? There's more to life than this. The God that I'm hearing, the life that I'm hearing that God desires for us. Surely this is not the life for me. in December 2015, he put his hands on me, and I said to him, I had the strength to say to him, we're over. And I remember him, he was holding me by the throat, and he had pinned me I had a walk-in wardrobe, and he had pinned me inside my walk-in wardrobe, holding me by the throat. And I said, you know what, we're over. And he let go of me. I think that was, for him, that was quite a shock, because every time he had broken up with me, every time we had broken up, it was him. It was just, he breaks up with me and then he comes back a week after.
Okay.
But that time, I'm the one. And I've always said, when I say it, you would know that it's true. I'm not playing games. Then he let go of my throat and he looked at me, and I repeated it. And he said, oh, the children, because he knows that obviously I didn't grow up within, having a family. So he knew that this is something that I wanted for the children. And
that's probably another reason why you stayed, because you wanted a family.
Yes. So the children, so he gave me a few things that melted my heart, and I said, okay. But I said, this is the last time you touch me. If you touch me again, that time, and I said to him, I promise you, that will be it. So we started 2016. We started fine. He started making some efforts, but then it was some efforts, but not enough to convince me that the life that I'm desiring would be exactly how it would be. So in July then 2016, so I had at that point, so from 2015, at that point I had fallen out of love with him. There was no love there. So even in 2016, when he was making efforts, for me it didn't mean anything. There was nothing for me. I was just empty. I was just like, okay, it's there for the kids. And when I said there, it wasn't there. But anyway, I said, okay, let me just go and see. Maybe the love will come back. But I felt really empty towards him. There was no feelings towards him. Then in July 2016, 31st of July 2016 to be precise, he was getting ready to go out. There was a situation a bit where he turned up late for an engagement where we were invited. I was there. He came late. Then when we got home, he then asked me for my car key, which was 9 times out of 10. That was an excuse for him to put his hands on me. So he asked me for the car key, and something inside of me said, "Don't give him. Don't give it to him, and don't give in." And I was at the same time I'm saying that to myself, and at the same time I'm like, oh my goodness, what's gonna happen? And then he's there, he's asking, and I'm saying no, and I'm repeating no, and I'm standing my ground, which is, it wasn't used to that. It wasn't used to me standing my ground. It would be, with him, it would be 1, 2, 3 shouts, and then obviously I'm scared, and I'm giving in because I'm scared. I don't want you to hit me. So at that time I stood my ground, and I remember I was in the living room playing with my son on the carpet. My daughter was watching TV, and he was going between living room, bedroom, and bathroom because he was getting ready to go out. And he said, "Give me the key." And I said, "No." And he came and he said, "Oh, you better know your place." And I was thinking, whoops. And I said, "Well, you better know your place." I said, "You're a man, and you're supposed to be the man of this house, but you don't know your place. I'm doing everything. I'm the man, I'm the woman. The kids know that. You probably know it. I'm the man of this house." And I think, obviously, and I don't even want to say this, because if I say this, that means I'm giving him an excuse for what he did next. So I would not say it. Then I went back to playing with my son, and then he came, stomped in the living room, grabbed me by the throat, pinned me against the balcony door. I felt the handle, go into my back, my lower back. But I said, in my head, I kept saying, "Don't give in, don't give in, don't give in." Right. And then he was shouting my face, and then he let go. And then my son just looked at him and said, "Oh, Daddy, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this to Mommy?" And he said, "Because Mommy is naughty." And then he came out of the house. And then I sat there, and my children, obviously they've seen scenes like that. They were looking at me. When your children are looking at you like, "You're not going to do anything." And I looked at them, and I said, "Enough, enough, enough." I packed our bags. Bear in mind, that's my house. But I packed our bags. He had gone out. I packed our bags without the car. That was a victory for me. I packed our bags and I went to my parents, and that's when I chose to say everything to my parents.
Okay, that was the first time of your dad knowing about everything. Wow. Okay.
They heard rumors, but because it never really came from me,
Mm.
they chose to not believe or maybe not ask me.
Yeah.
But when I just exposed everything, they were quite shocked. My brothers at that time, they were ready to come down and do something. And I say to them, no, it's not worth it. I don't want you to go and fight with this guy. It's not worth it. All I want is for him to leave my house, which it took about 2 days to get him to leave the house, even with the police involved.
Okay.
And he kept saying, no, I want to talk to you. I want to talk to you. And I said, no, we've done enough talking and we've done enough talking, not really meaningful talking, because every time I wanted to voice something of concerns, you never wanted to hear me. But now you want us to talk, and I don't want that. I want you out.
Yeah.
And it took about 2 days for him to come out. It was horrible. It was horrible. And when I finally gained access to my house, the landlord had to come and change the keys, the lock straight away. But then again, I was in my house, but I was so scared because he still had the fobs that will allow him to come into my front door.
Yeah.
So I was really scared. So my friend came to live with us.
Okay.
She came to live with us. And at that time we traveled. So at least I had a bit of peace. But he kept coming, obviously, let's get back. And I would say no. But something inside of me was like, but maybe I was too harsh. Maybe I should try again. And we know that expression, better the devil you know. And I was like, maybe the next guy will be worse. Maybe this one will change. Maybe now I've given him a lesson that he's seen that serious. So maybe now it will change. Yeah. So I was, you're still, and there's the soul ties as well. It's like, can I really live my life without him? Even though I knew it wasn't good to me. I was like, can I really live my life without him? And I had to collect myself and be real and say, no, this is not something I want. This is not something I want my children to be part of, because obviously they will grow up and think this is normal. The things that we do as parents, we're teaching our children what's normal and what's not normal, and them growing up in an abusive home will make them think that love is hitting, love is receiving, beats, and then it's you giving it. So I stood my ground. Though I have to say honestly, though we had some interaction where we were involved physically, and I said to myself, no, Paulette, this is soul tie. This is the soul tie. Drawing you back to him, and I had to really be.
Do you know, it's so important. That thing you said, I don't think a lot of people understand soul ties really, but it is so true. It is so true. But go on, sorry, I just thought I had to mention.
No, that's fine. And so I had to really be like, no, it's a no. And we decided obviously to co-parent, and to be spiteful, he said, okay, though obviously I had been with my daughter for some time and she had, called him dad. He said, okay, I can't take her. I will take my son. And my daughter was very quite kind of, she couldn't understand, like, oh, why would he come and get my brother and not take me? So he had to come later on. I had to now explain to her that this is not your dad, and explain to her.
Oh, so up to that time, she didn't really know.
No, she didn't know.
How old was she when he came into your life?
She was 3 years old.
Okay.
Yes, she was 3 years old. So at this
time when he left now, she was how old?
She was 2006, she was about 10 years old.
Oh, wow. So she had known for 7 years he was dad to her.
Yeah, and she only knew him. So, even if I dated in between, she would have not met the guys I've dated. So she knew him and only him as her dad. And for him to do that, he knew that it would hurt me. But I said, you know what, it's okay. I'm not going to force you. I'm not going to force you. So he would take his son and he would come. So he had gone into this thing. So obviously he can no longer abuse me physically, but he would, abuse me mentally, emotionally, because he would come, pick up his son anytime. There's no time for him. You can come and pick him up at 11 p.m. For him, it's okay. It's a Friday. He will drop him at midnight on a Sunday, telling you that the child hasn't ate and that he needs a bath when the child has school the next day. So these sort of things are kind of, it's still an abuse in some way. And then he will come into the house and sit on my couch and not want to leave. And I'm like, but you've come to pick up the child.
Did you go to court to sort this out at all?
Yeah, so I'm getting to that point. So So yeah, so he will come to the house, stay there, open my fridge, and we're not together. So I'm thinking, what are you doing? Open my fridge, sit down, and I'll be like, okay, can you leave? And then he had left a box of something in his house, in my house.
Yeah.
So he went into my bedroom, looked for something. He was looking for some t-shirts of some sort, and then he's telling me, oh, where's my? I said, I don't know. I packed everything, looking there. If it's not there, maybe you've taken it. Oh, and then he said, oh, can you just come and help? And then he called me the B word, shouting. There was children in the house.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm in the living room, he's in the bedroom, so there's a corridor. And I said, what? I said, you know what, get out. And when you pick up your child, you stay by the door. There's no longer coming into my house. You're not coming into my house. So he will pick up his son every 2 weeks, but then stand by the door and still be abusive. Call me dumb, call me all sorts of things that now my son would repeat.
Wow.
Oh no, mom, you can't do that. Oh, you dumb. And that's like a 4 or 5 year old is telling you, you know, it's calling you dumb. And I'm thinking, whoa, there's a problem there.
Yeah.
One time my son went to his house and he came back on a Sunday, couldn't settle to sleep. And I said, this is weird, this is unusual. So I went to my son and I said, oh, are you okay? What's happening? And he said, oh, I don't want to go to dad anymore. And I said, oh, like, what's wrong? Because to my son, though he witnessed all the abuse, his dad seemed to be kind of a hero still. He would love to be with his dad and all that. So for me, that was quite odd. I said, oh, why? And he said, oh, I couldn't close the door. And he slapped me. And I said, and I know the kind of slaps he gives. There's no, this is a child slap, this is an adult slap. His slaps are slaps, that's it. So I said, oh, okay. And at that point, because at the time that I tried to kick him out of the house, police got involved, social services got involved.
Yeah.
So I had social services still ongoing.
Yeah.
So I said to myself, oh my goodness, these social services, they visit us every 2 weeks or every week. I can't remember the intervals. And I said, and sometimes they want to speak to the kids on their own. And I said, what have you done? So I messaged him and I said, what have you done? You know, there's social services involved. Why did you go and do that?
Yeah.
And then obviously, as one would think, when social services spoke to the children, the story came up.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, he's going to definitely think that I'm the one who told the children to tell. And I said, you know what, at this point, I don't really care. The children have to speak. They have a voice. They have to speak, because all this time that things have been happening, my daughter's been going to school. She never shared it with anyone. Not that I've told her to not share, but as she's been telling me of recent, is that she was scared that she would be taken away. I never told her that she would be taken away for sharing. She made, obviously, her own mind up and never shared in school.
Yeah.
You know, never shared it. So they shared it with social services. Social services said he can't take his son until we get to speak to him.
Okay.
I said, okay, no problem. But you tell him that, because I don't want it for him to turn around and say that I'm stopping him from seeing his son.
Yeah.
The lady said that I will tell him when I speak to him. So she tried to call him. He got rude to her, cut off the phone. She called me and she said, do not give him his son. I said, that's fine, but you make sure you tell him again, because I'm not wanting him to come and do something to me.
Yeah.
That was basically it. So came the Friday, which would have been his Friday to take his son.
Yeah.
The build up to that Friday was very, very bad. I was anxious, scared. I went through all the emotions, because I know that he would not take a no for an answer, which happened. He came to the house on a Friday. Started calling. We were inside the house, but I chose obviously to not pick up the phone, and he started then banging on the door. Not banging, knocking, really banging, giving it to the door, to the point where my neighbors came out, trying to reason with him. I was calling the police. The police are telling me they're coming. But for me, obviously, if they're telling they're coming, I was very scared. And it's as if they took 2 days to come, but I was very scared. I was very nervous.
Yeah.
I could see the door, every kick he was giving to the door, I could see the door lifting.
Wow.
The children were so scared that they were hiding in the living room. Luckily my friend was there.
Yeah.
So she was with the children in the living room. But we started thinking, what if he knocks this door and comes in? My friend said, Paulette, what is he going to do to you, to us? Because at that point, it didn't seem like he was even ready to talk.
Okay.
He just wanted to do something.
Yeah.
So the police came, and I had to file a non-molestation order. When they came, he had left,
Okay.
but they could see. But when I opened my door, you could see the shoe prints. My letterbox was gone in, but you could see the shoe prints on the door.
Yeah.
You know, it was a bit scary. They took pictures and all that. They told me to file a non-molestation order, which I filed.
Okay.
And then they arrested him because of what he did to the door.
Yeah.
And I said to them, please read him the non-molestation order, because if you just hand it to him, he will take it, throw it to the bin. He's not going to want to read it, which they did. And they let him go. So they will call me, oh, we've arrested him, we've let him go. So I know. But then every time when they said we let him go, I was like, Lord, what's going to happen to me? What's going to happen to me? Very anxious. I don't know, very frightened, very anxious, going into work, very scared. So I went, you know, I was just going about my life, but very scared, always, you know, picking up the kids, making sure, you know, I told the schools no one is allowed to pick up the kids, you know, making sure that they obviously saw the non-molestation order. Yeah. He ended up breaking it, and they ended up arresting him.
So he came back to your house or what?
No, he didn't come back to my house. He called me. So the non-molestation order stated he's not allowed to contact me.
Okay.
He's not allowed to come to my house, not to the children's house, and he's not allowed to get anyone to contact me on his behalf or to threaten me on his behalf. Okay. So at first he called me, he was calling me off private, but I knew it was him. Okay. He was calling me off numbers. You know, he used one of his siblings' number, and this sibling never called me, though I had their phone number, never called me. So for me, it was quite odd. And then I would tell the police, and the police said, but because you're not picking up and because it's not his number, we can't do anything. Okay. I said, okay, no problem. That was on a Monday, and they released him on the Sunday. On the Wednesday, then he called me. He called me off his phone, right? Because I had blocked him, it just came up as a notification that a blocked number has tried to call you, and that was my proof that obviously he broke the non-molestation order. So they arrested him. Okay. They arrested him. And because he wouldn't behave, they kept him for quite some time before he went before the judge. For my security, they said, okay, we are gonna make sure that we drag it as much as we can so that you feel safe and your children are safe. So the whole process, obviously the court clerk, she will always be on the phone to me. Okay, it's going before the judge today. Oh no, today was not the day. So I was always kept in touch. And then when he ended up going in front of the judge found him very rude. They find him very defiant behavior. And they said he is a danger because he doesn't respect authority. Clearly, he doesn't care for authority. And if he doesn't care for authority, why would he care for me? Absolutely. Yes, and so they ended up keeping him for free. So he ended up doing 3 months in prison. Okay. And when he came out, he was told that if he wanted to see his son, he would need to apply through court, and for me to not obviously engage in anything outside of court, because obviously he will play against me. Yeah. What I forgot to say is that before that door incident, he had come to my house and actually ended up proposing with a ring. And we were not together, so he ended up proposing because he knew that I've always wanted marriage. Okay. You know, that at that point in time, marriage to me was an idol. It's no longer, but at that point in time, he knew that, oh, Paulette, she wants to get married. Yeah. And I thought this was the thing. The ring looked as if it came out straight from the shop with its box and everything. He went down on one knee. And then when I said no, basically it became a thing where you're dead to me. Oh my goodness. And yeah, so that's a bit of my journey, I guess. And after that, it's been a lot of healing. Most of my healing I've done between me and God, I have to say. Talking about it also has been part of the healing. Yeah. Writing my book has been part of the healing journey as well. Yeah. And most recently, I've referred myself for counseling because I feel like it's time. My children have been through counseling. For my daughter, this is the 2nd year. They've done counseling after the relationship ended. Then we stopped, then it stopped, and then we started again because what the counselor said is that at every stage of the year, it's kind of there's something that is triggered within them that would need to be that we need to be discussed. And I can see that now.
Okay.
My son has way more questions about his dad, which he didn't have before.
Okay.
So we're doing family counseling, and we're doing counseling separately as well.
Okay.
So that's where we're at. But most of it has been done with God's help, for sure, for sure. Taking it back to the cross, asking for forgiveness, because I know that I did walk in disobedience. Because one thing I didn't say is that when I got into that relationship, the Lord clearly said that this relationship wasn't for me.
Okay.
And I just felt like I had a point to prove, not only to God, but I had a point to prove to myself and to everyone else, when it shouldn't be like that. So I walked in disobedience, and the result, obviously, of disobedience has been the relationship that I was in. But God is gracious, so it's not something that I know God is not holding against me. So we're just doing that acknowledgement that I've been disobedience, Lord, and forgive me for walking in disobedience, and forgiving myself for making those choices, because I felt really, really bad, and I felt like obviously a bad person, a bad mother, a bad friend, a bad daughter. You feel so bad because of the choices you made that have impacted everyone around you, impacted my relationship with some friends, which now, we're not talking anymore because, me being in that relationship, I tried to obviously make sure that they didn't have a view into it. So I would kind of keep them away. And obviously for some friends that were quite close to me, all of a sudden finding themselves being kept at a distance has been, has been detrimental to our friendship. So I had to, to forgive myself, forgive my mom. I didn't know I was holding a grudge against my mom. Forgive my dad as well for everything that had happened. A lot went on, a lot of crying, and a lot has been brought back to the surface. Just like, like I said, the sexual abuse at the age of 9. It was literally, I had forgotten about it. I managed to forget about it until I started writing my book. And when, when the Lord brought it back in my mind, I just stopped and I started crying. I just stopped and I cried and I cried and I cried. And I couldn't write the book for some weeks after that, because I was just like, wow, this is actually something that I forgot completely about. And now God, and I said, God, you really want me to put that in the book? Because I feel ashamed. I feel ashamed that, a girl has done that to me. I don't know. I don't want to get too emotional, but for me, I was like, Lord, why should I put it there?
Because it'll help someone else. Oh, don't cry, Paulette. I'm so sorry. You've been through a lot, Paulette. Honestly, I know you keep saying you blame yourself, but the truth is that, look at everything that happened to you. From age 3, you faced rejection. You were taken out from one country to another suddenly. You were put in foster care. You were sexually abused at 9. You've been through a lot. So I'm glad that you're able to get to that place where you no longer blame yourself, because what you've been through, like I said at the beginning, is enough to break anyone. And you've been so brave, so brave in sharing your story today. And we just thank God. Truly, we thank God for your life. We really, really thank God. What you've been through is enough to break anyone. You attempted suicide so many times. And you remember you said that it didn't thank God, but that's because God knew that. God, the scripture says that even before we were formed, God knew you. So God knows that He's still going to use you. I think it was there's somebody here, Timothy, who said that what God is going to do in your life, you haven't even seen it yet. You may think, oh, He's brought me through so much. Just wait, because your future is just going to be greater than your past. God has a great plan for you. God has so many things. Even in sharing, there are people who are being set free by your story. The people who are going through or been through, and they probably haven't even come out. They probably haven't gone through therapy, but you have, and God is going to use you to touch so many lives. I know that. I honestly know that. I really know that. And thank you. Thank you so much. Oh my goodness, Paulette. You've been through a lot. Someone asked the question, what's your relationship with your aunt and dad like now? I think she answered that. Now with her
So,
dad, it's fine, right?
yes. No, so with my dad, we have a good relationship. So we're father daughter, very very good. You know, we call each other. Well, we try to call each other as often as we can, but it's kind of now. I know I have a dad, so I can, you know, go to him all the time and joke with him. It's a really good relationship. With my aunt, so before I left to come to the UK, I went to see my aunt. We hadn't spoken since I had left her house.
Yes.
So that was 2000, the year 2000, and I left for the UK in 2002. We hadn't spoken for 2 years, and something I would say it's God, you know, told me to go to her house and apologize.
Okay.
I apologized as a daughter who hadn't obviously respected the wish of, you know, her parent, because she was my guardian at that
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
So I just said sorry, and we hugged it there. And from me moving to London, I remember when I moved here, she was the first person I would call crying, I want to come home. And she said, oh, why don't you come back? I said, yeah, but I gave my flat away now. I'm not going to come back and live with, you know, in kind of your family. But she was one of the first I would be calling all the time. And our relationship then was fine. When I used to go back to, you know, to that town on holiday, I would be going to her house. So it was very freeing to say sorry. You know, even though obviously you still think that, oh, she did wrong, but in a way, you know, I did wrong as well by not respecting her wish to see me at the house on the day she wanted to see me.
Well, thank God you were obedient to God, because you know sometimes it's not about what they did. It's, you know, it's about, okay, I should have done my bit, and God saying you should say sorry. It was him again wanting to free you from
Yeah.
some of the stuff that you been through. Interesting. I just thought to ask, what about your siblings? Do they have any of these challenges? How are they? How are they doing?
I think we were all challenged in our own ways, but we haven't come to the point of all sharing. So the last born on my mom's side was 1 year old when our mom passed away. So she doesn't know.
Okay.
She doesn't know our mom. So she knows our mom through us. So she's
Okay.
living through kind of the memories that we have.
Okay.
We don't have much memory. I don't personally. I don't. Um, but we have been affected one way or another. That's for sure. So my little sister, the one I lived with,
Yeah.
sorry,
That's okay.
the one I lived with, when I was kicked out of the house, that was a shock for her because she no longer could see me.
Okay.
Sorry,
Do you want to take a
but she no
drink?
longer could see me. So that was, yeah, sorry.
Wow.
Yeah, so the other ones, my big sister, she went through her own rebellious kind of
Yeah.
journey. And the one after me as well, she still cries. You know, I mean, I've done the mourning, but I remember that there was years every time, you know, death anniversary, mom's birthday, you know, the cry continues. You know, when you're pregnant,
Your mom not there.
the cry continues as
Yeah.
well, because it's like, I wish I had my mom,
Yeah.
you know, to give me advice, you know, to counsel me. Oh, I wish I had my mom, you know, always these kind of things where you wish your mom was there,
Yeah.
you know. So I know my sisters feel that way. I've got my dad, so I can fall back on my dad.
Yeah.
My big sister does. She knows. She's come to know her dad, but is in Africa, so and their relationship is obviously what they can make of it because she's now an adult. So the one just after me has come to know her dad as well. And they're building that relationship because it's quite recent.
Okay.
And the last born, her dad keeps coming in and out of her life, so it's very disturbing. I think we all been challenged in some way or another.
Wow. Like someone said, thank God we don't look like what we've been through. And you certainly don't
Yeah,
look like what you've been through. I know. Thank God for redemption. Thank God
yeah,
for all that He's brought you through. And there's something somebody wrote that I read, and I think it's so true. She said, God had so much in store for you. The enemy tried to destroy you, but mercy said no. And the reason why the enemy tried to destroy you was because he knows, you know, he had a glimpse, of course, not knowing fully everything, a glimpse of your future. So that's
Yeah.
why he tried to destroy you. But, you know, I need to say this to, I don't even know what, parents, aunties, uncles, we really, really should be very careful, especially with young children around us. I mean, I hear stories of, especially abuse, where children are abused by people that we probably won't think they can be abusers. You know, it could be an uncle, it could be auntie, it could be a older sibling, older cousin, or, you know, and it could be a boy or girl. So, you know, before we used to think, oh, it was just a man, but it could be a woman too that is the abuser. So we really, really shouldn't leave our children with just anyone. I mean, in your case, you were in a foster home. So, you know, there's no way you would have known, or they would have known, that this kind of thing can happen. But I think that when this kind of thing happens to children, if we're aware, because there'll be changes that would have gone on, changes that would have happened to you, that if we're observant, would have been able to notice that there's something wrong with Paulette. She's probably going to be quieter. She's not her usual boisterous self. But we just have to be careful, because I hear these stories all the time. So especially with regards to abuse, oh my goodness, it's ridiculous. So okay, because I know you have to go. Today's your son's birthday, you said. How old is he?
It's his birthday party. He's 9 years old now.
9.
Yes.
Okay. Wow. Happy birthday. What would you say to a young lady who maybe is in your shoes? Well, not your shoes that you are in right now, but what you went through a few years ago. What would you say to that person?
I would say, you know, talking and having honest and open talks is very important. Because when you're not honest with yourself and you're not honest with the person you have trying to help you, you will get as much help as the openness that you have. Going to see a counselor, I know there's a stigma behind it, but it's not like that. It's not like that. It doesn't mean that you're crazy. It doesn't mean that God can't do it. It's just God has placed these people around us. It's given them the wisdom to be able to help us. And obviously, as a Christian, always not fall back, because God shouldn't be the last answer to the things that we go to, but go to God, cry out to God, surround yourself with godly people, because sometimes that will also be helpful to the journey of healing, when people are actually speaking life into you. You know, when you come from so much brokenness, you know, I didn't think that I would amount to anything. I genuinely, and it's not, you know, I knew that, you know, I did well academically. Academically, I excelled, if I can say that, you know, without being too boastful. I excelled academically, but that was the only thing I had going on for myself. You know, I never thought I was pretty. I never thought my skin was good. I never thought all of that. And when you are actually surrounded with godly people, when you know the word of God just for yourself as well, because sometimes it's not just people who need to speak into you, but allow the word of God to speak to you. And the family that you have in Christ will enable the world, those words to also, you know, you say germinate, you know, they kind of water it, they water that word. So I know the word, yes, that's it. So I know the word for myself, but having someone else water it at the same time as I'm watering it, it actually brings it more to the forefront of, yes, I know who I am. And when you stand in knowing who you are, nothing, and I say nothing that you've ever been through can define the calling, the purpose that God has for you. And like you said, you know, I've seen that the past, though, is no longer heavy. I wouldn't say heavy, because I've given it to Christ. But that past, God is now using it. I'm not a public talking person. Someone looking at me last time said, "Oh, you wouldn't think so." I'm shy. I'm shy. Believe it or not, I'm shy. But I know that in sharing my story, there's a purpose behind it. And God, it keeps on making the platform available for my story to be out there. And it's like you said, it's not just my story, it's the story of many. and I'm you know, I wouldn't claim to be that voice because there are many people out there talking, but I'm a voice amongst the voices that have chosen to not allow their past to define them.
Yeah.
Because I've been there, you know, I've been there, I've been broken, I've been down, and my self-esteem was, you know, minus. The value that I had placed on this life alone was minus.
Wow.
But the Lord has, you know, shifted me from seeing that, yes, I've been through it, but that doesn't define me. And then I'm able to now witness to others. I'm able to minister to people. And that is the beauty of, you know, that is the beauty of God. You know, the grace, the beauty, the amazing God that we serve. I can only just thank him for, you know, the transformation that I can see and that others are able to see in me. You know, my close people will tell you that this is not who you are. Like I said, I was a shell. I was a shadow of myself.
Wow.
I was a shadow of myself. And now I'm, you know, I'm finding myself.
Thank God.
And there's more.
Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord, for your daughter. Thank you, Lord. We're so grateful for bringing her through. Thank you, Lord, for the testimony that she is. Thank you for her story of redemption, of salvation, of restoration. Thank you, Lord, for the things that you're going to do in her and through her. Thank you, Lord, because she's a witness to your goodness and your mercy. Thank you, Lord, because she's a testimony that God never gives up on us.
Amen.
Even when we give up on ourselves, God never does. He, you know, he's just there. He makes a way where there seems to be no way. Thank you. Oh, wow, thank you. Okay, if you want to get Paulette's book, it's available on Amazon. It's called Behind the Smile.
Yes, I'll just show it.
Yes, where's the book? Let's see. Yes, Behind the Smile. So please get her book on Amazon. And if you want to connect with her, her Instagram handle is I am Paulette. Can someone help me to type it in the comment box, please? I'm sure she won't mind if you send her a DM if you have any questions for her. But she has been so amazing in sharing, very brave, as everyone has said, very vulnerable. Your story is just a story of, it's remarkable. It's remarkable. I still can't, you know, I'm just trying to comprehend everything that happened. It's just remarkable. And it's a story of grace too. It's a story of grace. Thank you so much. So please buy her book. And the book is also available. It's been translated into French, right? So is that also on Amazon?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Okay, so you can also get it on Amazon. But please connect with her. She's an amazing lady. And even the story of how we met is amazing. Because I think she said she joined Tinike's prayer group, and Tinike mentioned something about the declarations that I do. And then she connected with me. And then one day I saw that she shared her story somewhere and I connected with her. You know, that's why it's always good. Just, you never know how you connect with people. So I'm so glad that God brought you into my life. And I'm definitely going to stay in touch with you because I think you're a remarkable lady. Seriously.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Sorry, I'm trying to gather my thoughts. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you. And I know these are not the things people like to discuss, and sometimes people don't like to hear about these things. But thank you for just allowing me to, you know, be vulnerable. I say a lot that, you know, my book is kind of my walking wardrobe, as in I've laid it bare, and I just made sure that you know, the essential is said, but there's so much more behind it. The link also to the book and to the many things that I do is on my Instagram page. So do feel free to connect. It's I am X and then Paulette, my name. So
is that it?
Do feel free. Yes, I am X. Yes, perfect. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you so much. Everything you do, I follow, and I definitely will be keeping in touch. And
thank you so much.
Great. Thank you.
Great. Okay, we can let you go now, so you can go and prepare for your son's birthday.
Thank you. God bless you all. Thank you so much. Thank you. Take care.